Last year, I left my family, my friends, and even my girlfriend to try and become the next Elon Musk in San Francisco, only for my startup to fail and for my co-founder to jump ship less than a month into the new year. I lost everything I worked for, but found myself. This is to all the founders who didn't make it.
Hey, my name is How, like how are you doing, but twice.
I started my founder's journey at the height of the pandemic in the summer of 2020 with a company called I Contribute. Our goal was to help students discover their career passions through volunteering. Within a year, we partnered with 70 not-for-profits, rolled out our app to over 7,000 students, and signed a contract with our city's largest school board. Unfortunately, as I was nearing graduation, I realized the path to monetization was much harder than I had thought. So in 2022, I left the company I had poured 2 years of my time, heart, and soul into, dropped out of school, and embarked on a path to being a founder. Over the next 10 months, I looked into keyboard alternatives for AR glasses, vetting systems for caregivers, and so much more, none of which worked out. Eventually, I started working with an old friend, Bowen. We had a dream of building something incredible together. After 6 months of working on our new company, Laser, a crypto alternative to PayPal, we decided to go all in and move to San Francisco. I put up my tiny Toronto room for sublet, scrunched up the last of my internship savings, and made the leap of faith. There was a huge send-off with all of my Canadian friends, where we were showered with encouraging words. "You're going to make it big. I always knew you had it in you. We'll be rooting for you back home." On the flight out of Canada, I distinctly remember thinking, I've lost too much to give up now. My parents had just told me to never come back home. My girlfriend had dumped me, and every one of my co-founder relationships had deteriorated. This is the only bet I have on the table. This has to work.
That's probably the least steeper.
Unfortunately, within 3 weeks of landing, we shut down the company we were building and spiraled into pivot hell, trying to find any way to apply what we had learned to a new problem. But as the days turned into weeks, we started to lose hope. We realized we stopped believing in our problem space, stopped caring for the people who were using our product. And just like that, the light at the end of the tunnel, which held our hopes and dreams, vanished. But not all was lost. 2 weeks after we shut down, a Singapore startup approached my co-founder, Bowen, at a party, asking to work with us. They were well-funded, could help us get US visas to legally stay in the country, and were part of Y Combinator, the Harvard of startup incubators, where companies like Twitch and Airbnb were born. It was everything we wanted. The problem? When I say they wanted to work with us, I actually just meant Bowen. Their team only needed a technical co-founder, and despite all of Bowen's best efforts to bring me on board, it was hard to justify why. Their team already had decades of additional experience in everything I brought to the table. So we had to make a choice between Bowen joining a $1 million rocket ship to the moon or sticking by his childhood friend's side in the gutter.
Yeah. We go in tomorrow and say we're building an alternative to hardware wallets.
Eventually, we decided it was better if he joined the other company, and with that, Bowen was flown out to Singapore within a week. During the final few days we were in the same city, there was a huge internal conflict on how I wanted to feel and how I felt. As a friend, I wanted to be excited for him, to reminisce about the good times we had, to share laughs about all the free food and spaghetti we stole from networking nights, and talk about all the fun he would have in Asia. After all, this was an opportunity to 10x his career. What friend wouldn't be excited? But I couldn't feel that way. Instead, I felt only bitterness, resentment, and hurt.
How could you? Gave up everything to come here. I believed in us. Thought you did too.
Companionship and camaraderie were values that I took a lot of pride in. Up until now. I felt a lot of shame, like I had let down my mentors who had put so much faith in me, my friends who believed in me, as if I had broken some unspoken promise to my younger self. I didn't realize it at the time, but what I needed to hear was for someone to just tell me that I was enough. That I didn't have to build this billion-dollar business to prove that I was worth it, worth enough for others to stay in my life. That just me being a hardworking and caring person was good enough. But I didn't have that. So there I was, in a new country, alone, no job, no company, and honestly, no idea what to do. In the past 2 years, I had successfully started and even more successfully shut down every company I had founded. Stepping back, I realized the common thread that wove these failures together was me. So I decided to leave behind everything that I had gone to SF for, the companies I'd poured the best years of my life into, and work on the only thing I could really control: me. Since I wasn't building companies anymore, I had a lot more free time to be more social. From working out with friends I met in nearby parks, to asking to eat lunch with strangers who I met at the gym. I started meeting a lot of people, to the point where a good or bad day was determined by how many new friends I made. As someone who had spent the last year and a half sitting at home 9 to 9 for 6 days a week, going outside and touching grass went against all of my natural instincts. The only real friends I had in the last 2 years had been my co-founders, who usually slept on makeshift mattresses beside my bed. But as I grew closer to my new friends, I learned that I wasn't the only one who had gone through a similar identity crisis, and that each of my friends had made it out on the other side in their own way. In the end, I could have talked to hundreds of people about their life stories and still be 0 steps closer to how mine would turn out. There is no playbook to your specific life, and sometimes you are the only one who can pick up the pen and write the next chapter of your story. Throughout these few months, I tried to answer some of the larger questions in my life, like, who am I, and what matters to me? From reading self-improvement books to tracking my week-to-week behaviors, I was able to slowly piece together the traits I valued and who I was again. Whether it was hosting weekly potlucks at home or organizing hangouts at local parks, over time, I noticed I naturally gravitated towards bringing people together. Knowing firsthand what it was like to be surrounded by others, but still feel left out, creating a place for people to meet and genuinely connect was something that truly held a special place in my heart. Reflecting on my journey, things such as self-expression and belonging were values that repeatedly emerged in the events, people, and places that shaped who I am today. The fact that I had the opportunity to pursue my dreams, to have it not work out, but to still be okay, is a privilege that I realized not a lot of people could enjoy. If I wasn't building the next big thing, then I realized that having a degree suddenly became a lot more important. And with that, I decided I was finally ready to return to school and to go back home. When I told my parents I was returning to school, they were ecstatic to hear the news and welcomed me back with open arms. I also talked things out with my old co-founder, who ended up leaving the Singapore company and is now starting his next big thing. I'd say we're pretty much back to normal. Surprisingly, my second last semester at school was pretty good. It felt like I was reliving my first year of university, but doing all the things that I wished I had done. From making friends with strangers in the elevator, to vlogging my day-to-day in a silly banana costume. It wasn't until this point that things finally started getting better. Moving forward, there's still this desire to create and share with the world what I believe in. Whether it's through building companies, shipping YouTube videos, or writing blogs on mental health, there is a desire to be ambitious, not just financially, but also by being the best version of me. The funny thing about all of this is that If I didn't go to SF, then I wouldn't have had the experience of going all in on something and having it all fall apart. I wouldn't have realized startups aren't for me. I wouldn't have started vlogging, and I definitely wouldn't have met so many amazing new people. The fact that I bounced back from a time when plan A didn't work out, but plan A was the only plan I had, gave me the confidence that even if everything goes wrong, I can still pick myself back up.
So though I didn't turn out to be the next Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, knowing everything that happened, I do it all again in a heartbeat.
Shouldn't you be wearing Bowen and I wear How? That's what friendship bracelets are, right?